Good afternoon. So, how are you? How was the weekend? Do you feel great? Do you feel stressed? Ba? So, I am here again to discuss the topic 2 of our prelim coverage, which is the skills needed for planning. So, what are those skills ko, no, na kailangan para sa pagplano? So, what are the skills needed for planning? So, let's explore that skills. Let's learn that skills. So, just enjoy the ride. So, objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students must have, so first, you have to evaluate the basic skills for planning. So, imo siyang evaluate. If you have that skills, you should evaluate that one to be considered, to, if that skill is essential to planning. Next, recites the steps in planning process. So I hope at the end of the lesson, after you hear this or after you see this, you would be able to recite the steps in a planning process. So that is very important nga ma-recite na to what are the steps. It's because again that is helpful when we conduct a when we make a plan and implement the plan. Next, apply the characteristics of planning in the area of decision making. So, diba when you have decisions, you are planning ahead of time, diba? So, if you plan that one, so it will lead to a good result of your decision because you plan ahead of time. So what I've said, planning is very important because for the execution to be successful. Next, so what are the skills now needed for planning? So unsa mo kuno tong mga skills? First, natay giingon nga, first we have good analytical thinking. So unsa man kuno ng good analytical thinking? You have to know the situations. You have to first know what situation are you going to plan, or what particular situation requires a good plan. Okay? Next, you have to set up your baseline data. Learn to analyze what is happening and how it affects your unit. So, diba, planning also involves your imagination. Learn to analyze. You have to analyze what is happening or what is the current phenomena that your unit or your department is facing. Or you would also want to plan what will happen in the or what will happen in the unit, or what would I want to achieve together with my in my unit 5 years from now. Okay? So you have to analyze what is happening and how it affects your unit. Next, where is your crime prone area and what is your crime clock? So good analytical thinking. This would involve, for example, in your municipality, you have to plan where is that barangay which is considered a crime prone area. What would be your plan and how will you implement the plan in order for the crime prone barangay to be dili na siya crime prone barangay. Okay? So you have to first skill you have to develop is a good analytical thinker or a good analytical thinking. Next, you have to forecasting, seeing ahead and making sound assumptions. Begin with the end in mind. Use your intuition. Kung sabi ng intuition, ang ato ang, correct me if I'm wrong ha, intuition is a kato mga instincts, right? Based on a sound reflection of past experiences, look at the confluence of events and look at the future scenario. So, forecasting, di ba? May yung nag-forecast og bagyo ang taga-Pag-asa. So, they are seeing the future. Or unsay, forecasting the weather. Di ba? So, they are not forecasting weather. Diba, they have to report unsa may temperature na to ikaugma. So that is the same again with planning. So you have to forecast or seeing the future ahead or the future scenario. Use your imagination. Play around with ideas which would help you to be more effective as a police unit commander. Examine the causal relationship of events and draw conclusion with view of the future. So, examine the causal relationship of events and draw conclusion with a view of the future. So, you have to develop conclusion. What would be the best conclusion if you have make the plan, diba? Forecasts are estimates or predictions of future events or outcomes for a specified time period. It play critical roles in the planning process, and their accuracy is reflected in the accuracy of plans that are developed. So, forecasts are estimates or prediction. Predictions, that is not totally, say for example, so you have estimated what would be the possible impact if I will implement the plan. Okay? Or of future events, outcomes for a specified time period. So it play critical roles in the planning process, and their accuracy is reflected in the accuracy of plans that are developed. So once you implement your plan, the accuracy of the implemented plan is based on the plan you plan ahead of time, diba? So that is forecasting. Next, we have prioritizing. So you have to prioritize, diba? Imong darling, imo mang i-prioritize, charot. Next, prioritize. Compare your sources, capabilities with your goals and objectives. What and who should be tasked to reach certain purposes or ends, as what should be done first, what is more important, and what has a strategic impact. Okay? So, you have to prioritize your plan. Which plan should I first implement with? Or, say for example, the Tagbilaran City is tungod kay hapit na sila highly urbanized, so nanay traffic. So first sa planning, so you have to first to prioritize how will you decongest the traffic. Okay? So you have to prioritize your plan. What plan should be implemented first? Who is tasked to implement the plan? What are the possible and if you want your plan to be successful, it should be go hand in hand with your goals and objectives. So at the end of the or during the implementation plan, it should be na-target niya ang goals and objectives nimo. That means that your plan is good. Okay? Next, sound objective setting. Know where you are going and how to get there. Be practical. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a first step. So, know where you are going and how to get there. So, tungod kay naka-vision naman asa ang imuhang what would be or what do you want to your department or to the unit 2 years from now. So, we should have more or say for example, your goal would be a zero crime rate or low crime rate this year. So, tungod kay naka-envision naman ka, so kabaw na ka kung asa ka padulong. Sound objective setting. Next, contingency planning and crisis management. A contingency plan represents your efforts to guess what might go wrong or differently with your plan and how to handle if it does. So, crisis management plan. So, you should include in your plan what are those possible nga maka-interrupt sa imong plano. So, di ba, ang crisis kay di mo na to na mahibawan. Say for example for this 2020. Say for example that the 2020 budget. So, di ba, the 2019, so it was tackled or it was discussed during the 2019. So, they have allocated the different departments, allocated funds, money, resources, etc. But during in their planning stage, wala pa may COVID, di ba? So diri naman niabot pag 2020. So na-interrupt ang ilahang plano. So mao to nga ang ubang budget, so gimurag silbi gikuhaan siya para madung siya sa Department of Health. So that is again the same with contingency planning and crisis management, because you dili man nimo, wala man nimo gihawiran ang kanang wala nimo gihawiran ang tipod panahon ang posible nga mahitabo. So before pa lang or during the planning stage, naka-anticipate na ka for the possible nga crisis nga mahitabo sa imuhang plano. Okay? So you have to anticipate first what would be the possible interruptions in your planning or during your implementation. Okay? Next is monitoring. So identify success indicators and follow up. Try to see the progress of your plan. Make a checklist of what has been done. Place reminders on conspicuous places to remind you of the progress of plan. Diba before we're going to execute the plan, napatay gitawag og dry run. Okay? So, i-dry run na siya. If ever that is successful, then go. If naapay mga lapses, mo na siyang i-correct. So, before na siya, para makita na to kung unsay possible pa bag-ohon. Okay? Monitor. From the word monitor, monitoring. So, syempre, nagtanaw pagyapon ka sa imong plan. So, for the next planning, tungod kay naka-implement na mo ani, it should be kanang improved. Na-improve na ang imuhang previous plan. Your future plan should be improved from your previous plan. Okay? Next, documenting. If you have not written it, then you have not thought of it. Write your ideas down, report the progress of your plan. So, documenting ko no. So, if you have, diba, we are playing with our imagination. So, it should be best ko no if you jot it down. In order for you not to forget it. Okay? So, it's important. So, if you're not documenting it or if you're not writing it, it means that you are not, you haven't thought of it. So, it is important to jot down any ideas that will be helpful in the planning process. Okay? Next, flexibility. Adjust your plans to resources. So, flexible. From the word flexible. I-adjust nimo ay mong plano sa possible resources. Again, di ba akong giingon? It should be efficient. Okay? Maximum result with a minimal effort. So, you have to be flexible. Adjust kung unsa ra ang possible nga sources nga ma-provide. Be flexible. Adjust your plan as long as it has good result. Next, interoperability. So, this refers to the capability of the commander to work in synergy with the different government and private sectors of the community. These sectors are just waiting to be tapped and are eager to work with the PNP in pursuit of peace and order. In this regard, strategic and tactical alliances may be established with the church, the schools, the local government units, and with civic organizations to realize community support for the PNP. So, isa daw po kuno sa skill nga needed sa planning is kanang gitawag na to og interoperability. You have that skill to to communicate with other sectors of the community for the pursuit of peace and order. So, magtinabangay man ang community. So, dapat naasad kay skill to tap them whenever you need them. Okay? So, you should have that skill. So, interoperability is not just mere coordination, collaboration, or liaisoning. It is a commitment to deploy and employ resources and mobilize your synchronized energy with the different sectors of the community. So, it is establishing strategic and tactical alliances towards the vision of peace and order. Okay? So, interoperability. Next, let's go now to the steps in planning process. So, unsa kuno tong what are the steps kuno in the planning process? So, first, natay gitawag og define the overall purpose or goal. So, you have to determine what are your objectives, what are your goals in the next 5 years. That is the first step towards planning process. Okay? So, the first and most crucial step is often the most forgotten. So, bisan kuno ang first step, planners tend to forget this. For any plan to be successful, you must have a clear understanding of the desired outcome. So, unsa may gusto nako nga mahitabo sa community. 'Di ba? So first and foremost, you should have that goal para the rest will follow with your goal. Okay? So, until the overall purpose is understood, nothing else should be done. As the model shows, you return to the purpose or goal between each step of the planning process to ensure that you are in the right track. So, that goal or your objective is the path or the guide where you will go. Okay? Many well-intended plans go awry because people lose sight of their overall goal. So, basig ang imong goal is kani. Unya, wala dito siya natupad. So, di na siya pwede. So, first and foremost, you have to determine what are your goals or objectives, or what are your purposes why you make that plan. So, how kuno? A well-defined purpose or goal takes some thought. Here's some of the minimum elements. First, it states in broad terms what the desired outcome is. So, it defines the project time schedule. So, it defines the project's time schedule. Diba? Kakita man mo anang mga mga ipatukod nga karsada sa inyong mga barangay. Diba namin mga tarpaulin diha, diba? Kinsa ang contractor, pila ang amount, kanusa ang iyahang project date. So, within that specific date, it should be finished. Okay? So, that is one of your purpose or your goal nga dapat mahuman nako ning pagsiminto sa amuang karsada within the specified date. Okay? So, it describes the resources that will be used. Resources should be expressed in terms of people's time and financial costs among others. So, quality standards that are applicable. So, appeal po na siya sa imuhang purpose or goal. Next, make sure that your objectives align with the overall purpose. So, set objectives. So, based on your well-defined purpose or goal, you will set broad objectives that describe the major components of your project. Make a list of your objectives for easy reference. So you want to move from your overall purpose or goal statement to the details of your project. Do this by determining the major chunks of the project. So determine the major project. Okay? Next, collect and collect and evaluate the data you will need to determine what it will take to complete each component of the plan. So once your broad objectives are set, data collection begins. For each major component of project, you need to determine what the relevant facts are and what actions are necessary to complete each objective. Then develop a realistic and factual list of specific details or critical success factors for each objective of your plan. So this is the collecting of data process. This steps. So nakaset na kag objectives, naka-define na ka sa imong purpose or goal, naka-define na ka sa imong purpose or goal, nakaset sad kag objectives. Next na nga step is to data collection. So be sure to involve others throughout the planning process. So how to collect data needed for each objective? So you should ask and answer the following questions. First what work is required to accomplish this objective? Who must perform this work? And what issues or challenges will arise while getting this work done? So, appeal gyapon na siya sa imuhang collect and evaluation of data. Next, develop a forecast plan. So, forecasting is perhaps the most creative step in the planning process that a police manager must develop because several views must be tested before you decide on a project schedule. Okay? At this point of the plan, all your data should be integrated into a cohesive roadmap. Now you will take this detailed information for each objective and test how it works together in the meeting the overall purpose of our goal. So, as we all know, if you haven't read the different master plans of the Philippine National Police, so I think so it is best to read them while it's still you're still not busy. So in order for you to have a overview of what are the steps ng ilang gihimo. So sa ilang data collection, so butang na to nga this certain province is high in or high in high rate in illegal drug cases. So, apil na sa data nga ilang i-collect. Okay? And muna to katong develop a forecasting. Develop forecast. Forecasting will be less difficult if you compare different possible scenario. So again, imagination is very limitless, okay? So possible scenario to find the solution or courses of action. So say for example, imo na siyang i-imagine o kung ingani akong implement, what would be the reaction of the people? What would be the benefit of the people out from my implemented plan? So, apil na siya sa imuhang forecasting step. Next, determine action steps. Determine what tactical steps are needed to be taken and in what order based on your forecast and the details you gather during data collection. Activities are defined in a very detailed manner during this part of planning process. So you may want to develop daily or weekly checklists depending on the nature of your project. Here's some approaches. So checklist kuno is very important because you have now to determine the action steps. Okay? So, in the skills needed in planning, mo na ni ang gitawag na tuog monitoring. So, tungod kay nag-monitor na ka, use checklist. Unsay possible nga lapses nga nakita nimo sa mga implementers, okay? Use daily checklist that tie into weekly checklist and or weekly checklist that tie into monthly tracking sheets for your action plan. Keep all activities under due dates listed on the master action plan. Maintain individual checklist for each employee. So, post checklist will all employees' names and their assigned responsibilities. Take advantage of project management software to track the completion of activities. So, you have to track the activities of your department. Okay? Next, develop a contingency plan. So, a contingency plan represents your efforts to guess what might go wrong or indifferently with your plan and how to handle if it does. Developing a contingency plan is important because things rarely go exactly as planned. With a contingency plan in place, you can minimize the negative effects that changes may have on the success of your project. So, dapat you are making a plan, you're also making a contingency out of your plan. Kay again, sa akong giingon ganiha, dili nimo hawak ang panahon. Okay? You don't know what will happen next. So in order to minimize the negative effects sa imong negative effects that changes may have on the success of your project, so mo nang maghimo ka og contingency plan. Okay? Next, now let's go with the implementation of your plan. So you have to implement after that was forecasted, after that was data is collected. So the possible action steps towards your plan. So now it is time to implement your plan. So you have done your research. So after some research, you have consulted with other people and you have remained focused on your overall desired outcome or purpose. Now take your forecast, action plan, checklist, contingency plan, and begin. So you have to begin now what you have planned, or you have to implement now what you planned. Okay? So plan implementation has 3 phases. Unsa ko na 3 phases of implementation plan. First is na gitawag og the start. So the start follows these steps to begin your implementation plan. So first, communicate the plan. Make sure that everyone involved clearly understands the overall purpose and the roles he will play in the implementation. Okay? Track the initial activities very closely. Get feedback from those who are involved. Are there any activities that need to be changed or added? Communicate your initial findings to everyone involved. So, mo na ang the start. So, you have to communicate to the persons involved. So, dito, once you communicate, one way of communicating is kanang mag-survey ka. Example lang. Was the objective of the plan met? Yan na. So, communicate with the persons involved in your planning process. Next, the storm. There are several issues to arise during the implementation of your plan. Some people may be confused about the purpose of the plan and its timeline. Perhaps financial pressure and unexpected complications may surface. This is normal. So try to determine the root causes of the problem by talking to several people involved. So kaning giingon na to nga the storm, I can relate it to the very controversial Manila Bay white sand issue. Katong ilang pagtambak og dolomite. Why man? Diba? There are several issues to arise during the implementation plan. I have seen a scoop or an interview of Mayor Isko Moreno, diba? Nasa YouTube na siya. So, ang giingon is 2 years na daw nang giplano. 2 years lang giplano nga i-rehabilitate ang Manila Bay. So kadtong mga, so that was planned ahead na. Dili pod, plan na siya 2 years ago. So, 'di ba, ni-arise ang issue during na sa pag-implement sa plan. So, kinsa man tong mostly nga nag-raise og issue. Those are the lawmakers nga ni-oppose. But when in fact, during the deliberation of that plan, appeal sila sa or they are present during the deliberation of the plan, or during sa pag-allocate sa resources ana nga plan, during sa pag-approve ana nga plan, present sila. But then again, ni-oppose sila during the implementation plan. So moabot gyud na siya. So in the planning process na ginang gitawag na tuog storm. There is an issue nga mo arise gyud. Whether your plan is perfect or your plan is not, naa gyud na siya issue nga mo arise. So one piece of advice is you have to so one piece of advice is you have to take say termino so na may mga criticism, so imo na siyang tanggapin, di ba? Or kung tungod kinay issue nga na-arise or na-arise, so imo na siyang dawaton in your part nga imong plan is dili wala nimo ni na nahunahunaan. So, 'di ba? And the next na pod nga planning of another project. So, ma-apply niya to siya nimo. Okay? So, make several small but needed adjustments. Look at ways clarifying the plan so that small irritants don't get in the way. So, don't hesitate to implement your contingency plan if necessary. So, again, because you have make a contingency plan ahead of time, so don't hesitate to use it. To use the contingency plan in order for it to be adjusted to the situation nga wala nimo damha. Okay? So, communicate. Plans often stall due to lack of communication or conflicting messages. So, ikaw nga manager or the planner or the implementer of the plan, so naadjud na communication, proper communication channel. Okay? Next is maintain. So, make sure that your implementation plan supports the overall purpose. So, check the progress of your plan frequently. So, always nimo i-check if unsa na progress sa imong plan. Okay? So, last, make sure that your plan implemented that the overall purpose remain in focus. So, because you have determined your purpose or your goal and you have set your objectives, dapat that make sure that your plan implemented that the overall purpose remain in focus. So, dapat gihapon at the end of your or during the implementation of plan, nakita gihapon ang imuhang giset nga ang imong gusto nga outcome, and you have set your objective. So, dapat gina siya mag-go hand in hand. Okay? Next, let's go with planning and decision making. So, let's define first what is decision making. So, decision making is a process of identifying options and choosing those courses of action necessary to perform a given task. It is closely linked to planning since all planning involves decision making. Not all decision making is planning. So, process kono of identifying options and choosing those courses of action necessary to perform a task. Unsay angay nako nga buhaton para sa ikaayo ani nga plano. 'Di ba? So you are using your analytical thinking. Okay? So, but not all decision making is closely linked to planning. Since all planning involves decision making, but not all decision making is planning. Okay? So there are three special characteristics of planning as an area of decision making. So first, planning is anticipatory decision making. Managers must decide what to do and how to do it before action is required. So dapat kuno kabalo na what to do and how to do it. Apil na siya sa decision making. Next, planning involves a system of decision. Managers should recognize the interconnections between the one decision or sets of decision and another. Third, planning involves the creation of desired future sets. Managers engage in decision making aimed at accomplishing the objectives of their organization. That is part. So decision making is also part in planning. It involves the creation of desired future sets. Managers engage in decision making aimed at accomplishing the objectives of their organization. So, the most crucial step is the determine the purpose or your goals. So, once you implement that plan, it should be the goals or the purpose should be met. Okay? Next. So, unsa kuno ng plano? Wala ko na ibalik. So, plans are detailed expressions of actions necessary to accomplish stated organizational objectives. Once plans are formulated and implemented, they are periodically evaluated and determine their success in moving the organization in the direction of its stated goals. So, plans are decisions made in advance. So, I believe types of plans and more of the type of plans will be discussed on the next topic. So, that ends our discussion for today. I hope you have learned something, and again, I am sending a soft copy of my PowerPoint presentation in order for you to read. And also, naaman tayo book nga gi-provide. So, you should also read that one because I have not written all the details in the PowerPoint. So, useful gyapon ang libro. So, thank you and see you on the next discussion video. Okay, bye!